Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever I find you on this glorious earth plane. And just something that pops into my mind as I say that is this morning, when I was driving my son to school. He likes to get to school really, really early. And here in South Africa, we can drop our kids off as early as just after 6:30 in the morning. Can you believe that? Today it was a little bit late. I think it was about 20 to 7 on the way to school. And the sun was obviously still rising, but mid sky. And then as we came around this corner, there's this beautiful pink tree. I'm not very good with names. And the sun was just glistening on this pink, big blossoming tree amongst all the other greenery. So really the pink stood out. And then the sun rays, that sunlight on this pink tree. My son was busy talking to me and I had to just say, I have to stop you because look at this. Look at this gorgeous wonder that that we get to really just witness this morning. And it really set the tone for a good day. So I'll bring you that glistening sunlight falling fresh upon a gorgeous pink tree. And maybe I need to stop and get a flower and do a Google search on what type of tree this is. But for now, we'll just call it the pink glistening tree in the early sun rays. So from a really good space within my heart, I'll welcome you into this space today. For those of you that are new to me, to my offerings, and to my space, I'd like to just quickly introduce myself. And that is, I am the loving custodian of wildflower healing, which is part of the Golden Wildflower Group. And if I had to, string a whole lot of labels together, and this is exactly what it is in the in the world, is that we get to string words together and define who we are, but we know we are all things and no things simultaneously. So I am a holistic transformational healer. I specialize in brain-based therapy, which is what we're going to speak on today. So I'm a brain-based therapist. I am also an Akashic record guide. So I do things all Akashic records, which is your book of life, your book of knowledge, it's your truth. Not only do I read from the records, from your records, and offer you what wants to come through, I also teach the records, teach you how you can access and read from your own records. If you wanted to create an offering around that, how you can actually be available and accessible to being in a professional offering with someone else and reading their records. And then obviously just expanding that into what it takes to be in a business and molding that all together as a guide. I am also a best-selling author of 3 multi-author books that I've been a part of, which is Revolutionary Leaders, Wholehearted Leaders, and Your Shining Your Soul Light. I am also a keeper of grandmother wisdom, and there's a whole story attached to that, and maybe I'll do a little recording on that one day and just share how I came into realizing and actualizing this gift that was always within me, yet it was something that I was not consciously aware of. So I really love to share and shine from a space of congruence. So I only share and shine and guide through modalities, through content that has had the most impact for me. And I really do love to guide you and those that are called into my space to that vibration of higher love, higher light, highest truth and divine grace, and really guide you to remember, to restore and realign to your absolute sovereign grace within you, the absolute sovereign abundance, your divine inheritance within you, and the truth of who you are within your heart. So I have been asked to share a vibration frequency called Heart Sense Healing, and that will also be one of my future introductions. So you might be finding this space today where I have already recorded the introduction on heart sense healing. So you can find that on my Facebook, my YouTube page. And for now, it's still in the pipeline, but I'm sure I'll get to that in the next couple of days or weeks. And knowing that home is where the heart is, and the heart of your home is within, where all of you are welcome. So with that, I'll welcome you into the space as I introduce brain-based therapy. What is it? How can you benefit from working deep within the brain? Okay, so the three main parts of the brain, and yes, it's very complex, and there are systems within these systems, but if we had to quickly define it into three parts, you have the bottom of the brain, which is your reptilian brain. You've got the middle of your brain, which is your limbic brain, and then you have the top of your brain, which is your cortex brain. So your survival responses in your reptilian brain, this is what keeps you alive. It's where you absolutely survive from. The middle part of your brain is where we relate and have emotions. And then the top part of the brain is our thinking brain. So I will share with you how it was shared with me when I went for a talk on anxiety for children. And it was shared very simplistically and yet so effectively, because it just makes sense. And it really, the simplistic sense is always key, right? Because we can make things so complex. And so the bottom of the brain, your survival response, reptilian, right? So let's associate it with a crocodile. So we know when we go to Crocodile Park, I have a croc world like literally down the road from me. And obviously in South Africa, we have crocodiles. We have a lot of crocodiles, but whether it's a crocodile or alligator in your part of the world, it's an animal. I almost want to say beast. It's an animal that does not understand you, right? Has no concept or reference of you as a human being. So if you wanted to walk through a crocodile or alligator's lair, you would not, right? First of all, your brain would tell you that it is not safe, which is absolutely not safe. But let's say you had to say, no, I'm going to talk to this crocodile, this alligator, so lovingly, so compassionately. I'm also going to use a lot of logic and sense with this crocodile. I'm going to tell it where I'm going and how long it's going to take me to go. And I'm sure when I apply emotion and logic to the crocodile, he's going to hear me, right? But you know, I know it's not the case. The crocodile, the reptilian brain, cannot understand emotional language, and it cannot understand logic, thinking, talk. All it sees is you as a threat in its environment, and it absolutely has two responses initially, fight or flight. It's either going to come up to you and attack you and fight you if it feels like you've boxed it in some way, or its response will be to flee, to flight, and run away from you. But what happens in our brains is that we are even beyond that. We've gone even below, we've even dropped in lower into the reptilian brain, and we've gone into freeze, fold, and fawn. And how this shows up in our everyday life is we become numb to situations. We kind of so deep in the trenches that we actually don't know how to feel about it anymore. We go into people pleasing. We go into over accommodation. We go into a complete collapse, complete disassociation, isolation, and disconnection, depression, and all of those things. But we cannot speak to the crocodile or the reptilian brain, we can't even show compassion and an emotional understanding to the crocodile brain, the reptilian brain, because it does not understand that language. Only knows how to do flight or fight in its primary response. And then once that has been overactivated, it will then drop down into the freeze, fold, and forward. So your 5 Fs. Okay, so we can't speak logic. We cannot speak emotions to the crocodile reptilian brain. And we'll know this within ourselves when we're very, very activated, when we've been triggered. I had a situation where I went to my son's school for a talk, and there was a lot of things that happened prior to this particular, it was a group meeting with parents of that grade. There was a lot of things that had happened leading up to this meeting. And the particular person that was hosting or holding this meeting reminded me of some of my corporate dealings. And I went through a massive, I call it an initiation. I went through a massive initiation in 2019 in my corporate career, where actually got me on this path. It's the reason why I'm here speaking about brain-based therapy with you today, is because because of that initiation, I then had to seek out some relief. I was having panic attacks for the first time in my life at 41 years of age. And it was a really scary time for me. And that's when I was introduced to brain-based therapy. And through the impact that that's had on me in such a profound way, I have then gone into study and learn more and more about the brain, about the nervous system, and create some space in my offerings to actually offer the same. So when I went to this meeting at the school, and this particular person, unbeknownst to me at the time, was actually highlighting a particular person in my corporate career that actually initiated, like I say, a really intense post-traumatic stress reaction. I had to speak up. I wanted to speak up, right? I wanted to speak up for us as a parent body, and I wanted to speak up for my child's education. And so I could feel my heart racing. I could feel my cheeks going red. I could feel like a little bit of dissociation from my body, like my body was here, but it felt like I was floating. But I was like, I'm going to do this. I've got courage. I'm going to do this. And when I spoke the best I could, right? But afterwards, oh my goodness, afterwards at home, I was like, oh, you should have said this. Oh, you could have said that. Oh, can you imagine if you had phrased it in this way? You would have just sounded so much more intelligent, intellectual. Oh. And then when I went to my brain-based therapist and unpacked this, she's also my mentor. So I went to unpack this, and she, connected the dots for me. And again, through my own nervous system, I have learned so much that I now can share with others. And that I was trying to operate from my thinking brain, but I was in my reptilian brain, where the thinking brain that governs speech was completely disconnected. Okay, then we get to the middle of the brain. This is your emotional brain. So we can think about this as the cutest little puppy ever, right? Fluffy little puppy with puppy breath and a puppy little wet nose. And puppies, as we know, just respond to touch, respond to small words, not big words. They're still learning. And they respond to feelings, like they show you how they feel and you show them how you feel. So your limbic brain, the middle part of your brain, is the cutest little puppy. And this is when we can engage emotionally with people. And now we get to the top of the brain, and this is your thinking brain. So we can look at this as a supercomputer, as a telescope, as something that is be able to take something and just expand on it, show, you know, like the World Wide Web, or through a telescope, looking up at the constellations. And that's what the thinking part, the cortex part of the brain is. It governs so many aspects of our ability to apply logic, to apply, you know, rational sense. Unfortunately, most teenagers don't, you know, their prefrontal lobe cortex. So this is your cortex brain. The prefrontal lobe cortex only develops in the mid-20s. So it governs your emotional regulation, your prefrontal lobe cortex. It regulates your ability to see the bigger picture, to not be impulsive. Everything that we almost scream at. I have a teenager, so I can share this very congruently at the moment. All the things that we like want to shake them and, like, you know, didn't you think before you did that? Or, you know, just manage your emotional state, because you're acting out, you know, really, you know, however they are acting out in that emotion. And because they just don't have access to this part of adult logic, adult maturity that comes from the brain, right? It comes from the brain maturing. So what happens is that we have all of these reactions and responses in life based on other experiences that we've had growing up, had it through our teenage years, our young adult years, and depending on how old you are, even up to, you know, yesterday, there could have been an incident that might play out in a year or three's time, that you're not associating that with that, but the two are connected somehow. And what we do in brain-based therapy is that we work from the bottom of the brain up. Okay, a lot of your more conventional spaces work from the top of the brain and try and work down. But you can see by me explaining, and that's why I explained a little bit longer on the reptilian brain, is that we can't talk. We even apply compassion to the crocodile. It's not going to hear us. We have to approach the crocodile in its state of being a crocodile, so we can move up into the brain. And we do this primarily with both of our nervous systems working together, co-regulation, mom and child. Perfect example of co-regulation. Mom's able to feel the child, almost anticipate the child's needs before the child even has to or does even cry or murmur. The child is regulating through its mother for quite a long time, years in fact. And we do this with each other. We can co-regulate with each other. And we do this by being in space together, by sharing space with my nervous system working and working alongside your nervous system and creating some form of co-regulation. The foundation of brain-based therapy is to use a form of a kind of gentle hypnosis. Now, I know when we say hypnosis, people get a bit scared and frightened, but really all hypnosis is a self-hypnosis. And it's not you lying on the couch and going, oh, okay, well now, you know, you're going to do this or you're going to think that. It's really a beautiful, deep sense state of relaxation, where you're able to, through different techniques, bypass what we call your critical faculty, your cortex, even bypass the limbic brain, and then go deep into the reptilian brain and work from the bottom up, work from the inside out, and allow the nervous system to reorganize itself, because it knows how to do it. But why it can't do it, and why we end up with freeze, fawn, or fold, people pleasing, disconnection, depression, isolation, all of these other trauma responses, is because the nervous system needs time and resource in order to reorganize itself. It needs time and resource to do what it knows to do. But because, as you all know, life is so busy, life is so fast, life is so full of information and data, that our nervous systems are completely overwhelmed right now. Completely overwhelmed. And 2020 and lockdown and all of those those effects that we all went through 4 years ago is now starting to play out. And I believe that the cornerstone to us living grounded, connected is through the self-resource, and that self-resource actually comes from a regulated nervous system. And yes, we know that there are the big traumas in life, the big T's. But any time that the brain is having to navigate a lot of information, a lot of data, with not enough time and resource to process that, to reorganize itself from the inside out, to do what it knows how to do so effectively, because it doesn't have the time and resources, those can become open trauma pockets, open trauma capsules. And what we do in brain-based therapy is we assist with the closing, giving the brain time and resource. There's very different techniques that we use as the resource. We could use your own body's response through your optic nerves, your neurological pathways. We could simply use your body's resource of deep relaxation. The different techniques we use at different times, depending on where your nervous system is sitting in terms of activation and response. And we give it time, and we give it the appropriate resource so that it can, again, reorganize itself from the inside out. Oh, so it is one of my 3 core offerings. I have many tools in my toolkit, and again, I only share from a space of congruence. 5 years ago, brain-based therapy completely revolutionized and changed my life. I use it with my kids. I use it in my daily interactions with how I react and respond to people. I'm still in learning in terms of my own nervous system. And as you know, we are very, very overwhelmed with a lot of information and data. And I am learning how to navigate my own fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and fold responses, because it's an ever-growing space we find ourselves in. So my invitation to you today is that if you are feeling stressed, if you're having those moments of anxiety, possibly you're navigating a chronic illness, finding yourself in addictive patterns, I will just share with you that Monday I released myself from a game that I became very addicted to. Been addicted to it since last year, August, and it really started overwhelming my life. And I chose to delete it on Monday and rather to use that space in a more effective and healthy way. So, addiction comes in all forms. And obviously in time, we work with the big T's, or the traumatic experiences. So if you are feeling stressed, if you are feeling anxious, worried, navigating a transitional space, and you can feel within yourself that you really would, benefit from some additional time and resources for you, working with the brain, working directly with the nervous system, so that you can get through and navigate out of the overwhelm, out of the compromising space that the demands of our modern life actually present itself, then working from the bottom of the brain up, working with a brain-based therapist, myself or someone else in your area would really be beneficial, because we are navigating often, constantly in a state of overwhelm. And when this happens, the brain shuts down. And that's when burnout, depression, over-accommodating, people-pleasing are inevitable. And what this is actually saying to you, if you are in a state of depression or burnout, is that your nervous system is really just saying to you, can you please hear me? Really am asking for regulation and recovery. Regulation and recovery. So moving from a dysregulated state into self-regulation, creating space in your nervous system so that you feel calm and resourced. And I do this with all of my tools, working with spiritual transformation, using the brain-based techniques to create a holistic fusion that starts and ends with you at the heart of each and every session. So each and every session will look different, even though the modalities are quite, similar. You in each situation, in each moment in time, you are different. So we respond to you where you are at that moment. So your journey to wholeness is not meant to be linear. And this unique space allows you to know yourself more intimately, understand how your body and how your nervous system functions, so that you can navigate your emotions with flexibility and compassion. So if this is speaking to you at this time, please feel free to direct message me. All of my details are below. Love to connect with you, and I would love to create space where you and I can work with your gorgeous, very, what's the word I want to use quickly? Like effective nervous system. It might just need some time and resource to recover and to get into that beautiful space of self-regulation. So from my heart to yours, I send you every blessing of love and of grace, knowing that you are so held and supported in every way.